Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson. Here on the Mershon Friday edition of the Yard. It's actually Thursday evening, so anything that breaks in the night may conflict. It's kind of like the other day. As soon as we get done recording the Wednesday show and talking about Ryan Prager, how important it was for him to sign with the Angels, within minutes of the show being published, it's announced that Prager's not going to sign with the Angels. And immediately everybody wonders, hey, what does all that mean? I'm going to break that down for you and kind of give you an update on what I've been told about where things stand with Dave Mershon, who is our guy. And we wish him the best no matter what he decides, but obviously want him back for another year. We think that's good for us and good for him, right? Because I think it's pretty safe to say that, Dave come back, get a little NIL money, and then probably get a better pick and a better signing bonus next year. Of course, it's not my life, right? It's easy to sit back, like I always joke about the NIL stuff. It's like there are a lot of people that don't give a nickel to NIL that are like, hey, well, can't NIL take care of this? Well, it's not easy to say when you're spending somebody else's money, right? Same situation with Mershon. We don't know what David's dealing with. We don't know what's in David's heart. I can tell you that back, middle of the year, I had some people tell me, yeah, he would really like to sign this year. He's a draft-eligible sophomore. He'd like to be able to sign, but it's going to depend on where he goes in the draft and what they offer him. And now here we are, 18th round pick by the Angels. And yesterday, I was thinking, hey, they've got about $305,000 left over in the draft pool. He's got $150,000 assigned to him for his pick value. And so, hey, that works out to about $450,000. That could be a real problem for us. I'm told today it's really not going to be that high. And we'll see. A lot of people projecting because of the fact you also lose the 5%. And then there's also the luxury tax from going over. So there's some red tape involved in this thing too. But the bottom line is this. If David Mershon is ready to begin his pro career, what price do you put on that? Can you just sit back and say, well, we ought to give him a couple $100,000 to come back? And maybe that's a prudent decision. But the reality of it is, if it's in his heart, like if he has played the entire spring expecting to sign, and then all of a sudden he has to reverse course, that's a deal that probably requires a little, maybe kind of gearing down a little bit, One thing I do know about David Mershon is that he is a person of character. He comes from a family of character. He is wildly respected by his teammates, not just as a great player on the field, but a great guy off the field. And so he's not going to just kind of, doing things silly. He's going to do what he thinks is best for himself. He's got an advisor like everybody else does. And so they'll figure it out. And we'll talk more about that here in the next segment of the show. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company. I was going to get Bulldog Burger Company today, but I hit a hit a snag, I guess, in the Bulldog Burger Company experience because I elected to go to Harvey's. But I will be at Bulldog Burger Company at some point this weekend because, again, I've had a hankering. Today the steak from Harvey's was just kind of more of a matter of expediency. I was down there helping at the spa. I'll be running the spa all weekend. Feel free to come by and say hello. I'll give you a tour. But, Bulldog Burger Company, I love it, man. And I've been thinking about, we talk about a hankering. I've been thinking about those Sloppy Joe sliders. It is a great lunch portion, tons of protein. And, we were kids. Mama makes Sloppy Joes or Manwich, whichever brand that you were loyal to. That was a treat, man. It was. You can now treat yourself. Courtesy of Bulldog Burger Company. You go by there, have those Sloppy Joe sliders, maybe get onion rings, maybe you don't, maybe you stick with the fries. I don't know your preferences, but I know this. I know that you're going to get a quality meal at a quality price and get amazing service at an amazing location with an amazing atmosphere. And you know what? Maybe you get it to go. They do a great job with that too. So 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowwood area. Whatever you have a craving for, it's a good chance Bulldog Burger Company can meet it for you. You want to go have an adult beverage, have a night out with friends, you can do that. Take the family out. Maybe everybody gets a chocolate shake to go, Dad. It's always a great idea. And for you, get that Shipway's bread pudding. bring it home, put it in that refrigerator a little bit later tonight. When you need that palate cleanser, you start getting a little bit of a sweet tooth, you can take care of that. Bulldog Burger Company, the place where people go to meet. M-E-A-T. Okay, here is what we have learned. And I have spent so much time on the phone this week about this particular topic with Dave Mershon. And so I was originally told that he was supposed to meet with the Angels today on Thursday. I'm told that actually is going to take place on Friday. Going to get in the plane, take the trip, and have an opportunity to go out there and meet with their officials, and then they will have a formal offer. Of course, there's been a feeling out process and things like that. I never fault anybody for gathering all the facts. I think that's important. I mean, it's a major decision. And so David has worked through this process. He has a family that loves him, that has been, a sounding board and kind of a, sense of encouragement for him. He's got an advisor, somebody that says, kind of paints the bigger picture, right? Because you've got to think about that. That's a decision you make with your family. Sometimes your family may not be fully equipped when it comes to the business side of baseball. That's why you hire an advisor, right? And so David's got a lot of people around him that have his best interest at heart. So no matter what he decides, you best believe it's not really an emotional decision. Because it's not like, years ago where, you had a 40-round draft and they sit down with a kid and say, hey, we drafted you in a 38th round, but we think you're a big leaguer. Those kind of conversations don't happen anymore. It's an abbreviated draft. It's only 20 rounds now. And let's just kind of call it for what it is. The Angels kind of took a flyer on David. They goes, hey, this guy's a great player, and if we can get him, it may be a reduced bonus than we'd pay next year. That's a really smart move for us. Because David Mershon is a big leaguer, I think. I know his size kind of works him against him a little bit, but with his work ethic, and I'll tell you this, how many times did you see, a screaming one-hopper hit out the short at about 110 miles an hour, and David just vacuums that thing up like a Hoover vacuum and then fires over to first and makes it look so incredibly routine. How many times did you see it this year and say, you know what, that dude's a big leaguer. That's a pro over there at short. And so I'm not the least bit surprised. It's kind of a baseball-savvy move if you're the Angels. Because you say, hey, listen, let's take this guy. Maybe we don't have the money to sign him now. But you know what? If somebody else doesn't sign, then perhaps we will. Now, here's how this whole thing breaks down. Because a lot of people think, hey, well, that's about another $1 million they can use. They can't use that money. Okay, Rule 4 of the Major League Baseball draft says any player that is not signed, drafted in the first 10 rounds, that slot value is eliminated from your bonus pool. So you don't get to use it. Like you don't get to bank it and say, okay, well, we didn't sign this guy, so we'll just spread this money around to our remaining draft picks. That's not how it works. Now, the amount of money they have left over in their bonus pool, it's about $305,000. And so I'm told today that they may not be able to offer all of that in addition to the $150,000. They may not be able to offer $450,000. It's going to be close. And I think that's probably some money you look at, right? If they're able to offer you $250,000, $300,000, you got to decide. Yeah, hey, do I take this money now? This is the sure thing. Or do I come back, get a little NIL money, and I say a little NIL money, that could be $100,000. I don't know. I don't have no idea what they've offered him. And then you go back next year, and let's say you replicate what you did this year. Well, then you may be getting $500,000. So then all of a sudden you've kind of double dipped, right? So you take the NIL money here, $500,000 next year. What is this year worth? Is it worth $200,000? Because you may get $100,000 from Mississippi State. And I'm just spitballing numbers here. Nobody's told me that. I'm just kind of throwing it out there as a hypothetical. And then you go out next year, and all of a sudden you get $500,000 from somebody instead of fourth or fifth round. Well, all of a sudden you've made $600,000 in a year's time. That's very significant money for any of us. And so that's the thing that kind of has to be considered, right? And again, that's why you have an advisor to kind of take you through that part of the process. It's like, hey, here's what we can do. Hey, you can take $250,000, $300,000 now, or we may be able to work this deal into getting double that. Because here's the thing we know for sure about Dave Mershon. Dave Mershon is going to come in here and play at a high level. Dave Mershon is going to be a leader. Dave Mershon is going to get out there and give everything he has to Mississippi State baseball, provided he comes back. Now, I know some people out there have been forecasting since the day he got drafted that he was going to sign. And I can tell you, as we sit here today, on Thursday evening, that decision hasn't been made. Now, that may be a lot of people's opinions, and I've got a wide range of opinions today after speaking to several people that have knowledge of the situation that tell me, hey, I think he's back. I've had about 3 people tell me they think he's back, and I've had 2 that say, I think he's probably going to sign. But nobody knows for sure. And a lot of that, too, is, again, knowing the business of baseball. Now, Dave Mershon, too, you begin to think about this, too. Like, hey, let's say he gets $75,000 to $100,000 in NIL money. Well, for a young person, spending a year in Starkville, Mississippi, that money can go a long way. Maybe he goes out and buys himself a car. I don't know. I don't know David's needs. I don't know what David's got going on. But I know it's a situation that I think he has to listen to. But at the end of the day, if he has just decided, you know what, it's been my dream to play pro ball, and I think I can make the difference up maybe once I make the show. What's interesting, too, a lot of people think, well, what is their salary? Guys, it's not much. And I had somebody send this. I'm going to paraphrase some of this with you because I wanted it's a lot of information. But so at the rookie ball level, they get $675 a week plus $30 a day plus housing and 2 meals a day. And then that's the scale with which it starts, and then it goes up. So you start thinking, hey, $675 a week. You start doing the math on that, it's a little over $30,000. And then the fact that they're giving you a housing allowance and you're getting some meals, you're not having to spend your money on a lot. And so for a guy like Dave Mershon, he didn't have a lot of obligations. He may have said, you know what, that works for me. I can save some money. I certainly hoped we would not be in this situation. Now, if Dave Mershon had been drafted 6th or 7th round, I'd be like, I think he's going to get close to what he's worth, if not exactly what he's worth in his mind. And that's a value only he can assess, he and his family and the agent. I just don't want to see Dave Mershon sign for $250,000. And the reason I say that is because I think he's worth that much more. I think he is a guy that can come in here next year and probably get $500,000. I think he's worth that. But you begin to think about this thing too. It's like, well, hey, if I really don't have an opportunity to maybe advance my stock, and I think he does, but he may not agree. He may think, you know what, this is what I need to do, so we're going to go ahead and sign because instead of me spending another year on the college level, I've spent another year in the minors, and then maybe next year, maybe I'm a high A or a double A guy. That's a decision that only he can make. We can't quantify that. But there are a lot of people out there that have been like, hey, this is what I know. And I got this one lady on Facebook that, from the moment that he got drafted, said, oh, he's absolutely going to sign. And again, at this point, there's no evidence either way. And a lot of people want to make this, hey, what's really going to happen? What's really going to happen? We don't know. Until he sits down with them and has a chance to peruse the deal and then take a couple days and talk to his advisor, talk with his family, the people that have been with him since the beginning, we really don't know. No matter what anybody tells you right now on social media or whatever, if they tell you that they know definitively what's going to happen, they're wrong. They're just making it up. Now, they may be ultimately proven correct in their forecast, but it's really just a guess. And I'm sharing that with you because I am so incredibly confident in my sourcing with this. So if anybody has given up on David Mershon, I think it's important to understand that that's their personal opinion. It's not rooted in anything. And again, that doesn't mean that he's not going to sign. Just at this point, he hasn't decided to sign. He hasn't decided to come back. I've had opportunity to speak, with Mershon's, and they're just not ready to commit to anything. It's been a few days, but they're just not ready to make any decisions. And good for them, right? Now, selfishly, we'd love for David to come out and say, hey, I'm coming back and, we're good to go. Let's go to Omaha and fire everybody up. But David owes it to himself to work through this process. And again, you look at this, he gets drafted, goodness, it's been almost 10 days now. And he still hasn't had a formal sit down with the team. And a lot of that's because they have to figure out all these other deals. But, we wish the best for David. And if he's back, we're thrilled. And if he's not, we're appreciative of his contributions to Mississippi State baseball. All right, let's change gears a little bit. Hey, Bulldog fans, I like saving money. I like a deal. I do. And there's so many restrictions these days. There's always this red tape and all this nonsense and BS. And you need a note from your mom and a pint of blood. And then you got to make some ridiculous agreement just to save a few bucks. Look, for me, it's got to be easy. I don't want any hoops. I don't want any BS or red tape. So when Mint Mobile said, hey, you can get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I said it's too good to be true. Turns out I was wrong. They're right. It really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process, the time spent on hold waiting to cancel the existing service with my old provider. It's just simple. You call Mint Mobile, they get you going. To get started, go to mintmobile.com/boneyard. There you'll see right now the 3-month plans are just $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. How about that? All plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number with you, along with all your existing contacts. Find out how easy it is to switch to Mint Mobile and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/boneyard. That's right, mintmobile.com/boneyard, and cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/boneyard. $45 upfront payment is required. That's equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on the first 3-month plan only. Speeds slower, above 40 gigabytes on the unlimited plan. Additional tax, fees, and restrictions may apply. Hey, Bulldog fans, we love dogs. And not just Bulldogs, we love our own dogs. But why are so many dogs suffering with health issues these days? Actress Katherine Heigl, who's helped save over 16,000 dogs through her own foundation, says she's seeing more issues with joints and odors and health than ever before. And after doing some research, there's one place we can all look to support our dog's health. It's their food. She decided to create something that she could actually feel good about and about feeding her dogs. It's called Superfood Complete. Superfood Complete is made with over 30 of the healthiest ingredients in the world, including several superfoods vital to your dog's health. Badlands Ranch also supports the Jason Debus Heigl Foundation, which has helped rescue thousands of dogs and place them in loving homes. How cool is that? I have fed my dogs this. They absolutely love it. And I kind of use it as a food supplement with their regular food. They prefer this to their regular food. True story. Go to badlandsranch.com/boneyard. And you can order right now and get up to 50% off your regular priced order with a 90-day money-back guarantee. How about that? If you want your dog to experience all these incredible things, go to badlandsranch.com/boneyard. Today's episode brought to you by Zippix Nicotine Toothpicks. Zippix brings you a totally satisfying, convenient, and great tasting way to curb your nicotine cravings. Now you can get your nicotine fix anytime, anywhere without having to rely on smoking or vaping. How cool is that? Zippix toothpicks give you an easier, better, and more discreet way to get your fix. They're available in 6 great, long-lasting flavors and have options in both 2 milligram and 3 milligrams of nicotine. Zippix are perfect for flights, sporting events, restaurants, and literally everywhere else that smoking and vaping are banned. They're also one of the most cost-effective nicotine products on the market. Zippix also offers caffeine and B12 infused toothpicks. If you're not a nicotine user, or if you're trying to get away from the nicotine habit, wouldn't that be a good thing? Zippix have already helped tens of thousands of customers get their nicotine fix without needing to inhale smoke or vape bowls. Make your lungs happy and try Zippix nicotine-infused toothpicks. Ditch the cigarettes, ditch the vape, get some nicotine-infused toothpicks at zippixtoothpicks.com today. Get 10% off your first order by using my code BONEYARD at checkout. Your lungs will be glad you did. You must be 21 or older to order. Warning, nicotine is an addictive chemical. Zip more, smoke less with Zippix nicotine toothpicks. Here, talk a little bit about Travis Smith. This situation with the Brewers, like at least with the Angels, you look at this now and say, okay, everybody signed that's going to sign because Gatwood's not going to sign. The Brewers situation, there's going to be a flurry of activity with them between now and August 1st, which is the last day for teams to come to terms with their draft picks. Man, they are absolutely all over the place with this. They have so many unsigned players. It's like, how do you even know what you can tell Travis Smith? Well, you don't. You don't know what you can tell him because of the fact you've got so many guys ahead of him that either haven't come to terms or still in the process of deciding if they're going to go pro or not. And that's the thing. I look at this draft, and I got some. I've talked to the Brewer scouts. I've got some friends that have been affiliated with that organization, and so they don't do a lot of silly stuff. And what I mean by that is they're very conservative in the draft, but they're not going to go out here and just kind of get themselves in an overslot situation where they can't pay other people. But it's interesting, knowing what I know about the Brewers and then seeing kind of where they are. It's kind of surprising. And I think this weekend obviously will be big for them. But let's kind of run it back here. They recently signed their first-round pick, Braylon Payne, an outfielder from Elkins, Texas, a high schooler. His signing bonus was $3.4 million. That's a slot value of $4.5. So they save a little over $1 million right there. And then Blake Burke, you know him from Tennessee. He was a competitive balance A, the 34th pick in the draft. He signs for over $500,000 less than the slot value. He signs for $2.1 million. And so right out of the gate, they've got some savings, right? And so, some of that they can use to, add and kind of sweeten the pot a little bit for other guys. But here's what's interesting. You get to round two. Bryce McCage, right-handed pitcher from Pennington, New Jersey. Slot value of $1.5 and change, unsigned. And then right behind him is Chris Livonis from Christian Brothers in New Jersey. So back-to-back high school pitchers from New Jersey. His slot value is $1.2 and change. Now, if they don't sign these guys, they lose the slot value, right? That is subtracted from their bonus pool. And I know sometimes I feel like I'm speaking in jargon a little bit over the head of the casual fan. I'm trying to increase our knowledge base, okay? In the event that they don't sign these guys, they cannot bankroll that money to somebody else. They cannot spend a dime of that money to give to Travis Smith or anybody else. You lose it. You are penalized. You lose the pick. You lose the slot value. Those are the rules of the draft. And so you begin to work through this and you begin to think, okay, well, there's just no way that they cannot sign these guys. They've got to find a way to get it done. I'm told that Livonis wants close to $3 million. He wants north of $2 million for sure. You get behind that, round three, Jaron DeBerry, right-handed pitcher from Dallas Baptist, slot value of $788,000 and change. He also hasn't signed. So that's 3 picks, rounds 2 and 3, that are all high-dollar slot values that haven't come to terms. And so before they even can tell Travis Smith, hey, Travis, here's what we can afford to pay you. Hey, listen, there's no penalty if they don't sign Travis Smith. He's the guy that went in the 15th round. And so if you don't sign him, you're not penalizing your bonus pool. If you don't sign these other guys, it's a much different deal. Now, round 4, they did sign him for about a little bit under slot there. Marco Dingus, catcher from Florida State. Round 5, right-handed pitcher from Old Dominion, John Hobelitz. He also signed for about $100,000 beneath slot value. And see, what you're doing here, you're trying to get the money together to package this and piecemeal this thing together to take care of those guys in the second and third round. Because all those guys clearly want over slot. If they didn't want over slot, they would have already signed. Round 6, they signed Chandler Welch from Tulane, saved about $100,000 there. Mason Molina, we know him. We recruited him last year. Thought we were in a good spot. He chooses Arkansas, goes up there and has a very mediocre year. Well, he signed for almost full slot there in the 7th round. Sam Garcia, a left-handed pitcher from Oklahoma State, signed for $55,000. Slot value there was $210. So $155,000 to the good if you're the Brewers. And then there's Griffin Tobias, right-handed pitcher from Lake Central, Indiana. Well, he signed for about $50,000 over slot. So a lot of the money you saved there, you've already spent. You get to round 10, and again, we'll stop here. But Ethan Dorchis, right-handed pitcher, high schooler, slot value was $180. They ink him for $162. One other thing we'll point out here about the Brewers draft. Tyson Harden, mentioned this on Wednesday, I believe, $150,000. It's listed at $147,500, but again, the $2,500 is all part of the whole processing thing. So he signs for the max. Doesn't affect their bonus pool. But what's interesting is when you look at like their picks 11 through 20, they haven't signed their 11th rounder, their 13th rounder, their 14th rounder, their 15th rounder, their 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, or 20th. Let that sink in for a second. That's what all his writing, now that may have come to terms with their agent, just hadn't been formalized yet. But a lot of this is riding on what happens in the early stages of the draft. You got those guys with high dollar slot values that if you don't sign, you get penalized for. So they don't even know at this point, until those deals are finalized, what they can offer Travis Smith. I told you guys about a week or so ago, I was probably more worried about him. I think it's easier to get to $500,000 for a 15th-round pick than there is to get to $500,000 or so for an 18th-round pick. And I also thought Ryan Prager was going to sign with the Angels. He didn't. That's the thing. It's always so unpredictable. And again, it's usually one or two guys a year. It's almost 100%. It's a 99% conversion rate of guys that sign. And I saw somebody did the math on that. So since they went to this, it's 1%. That 1% of players selected in the top 10 rounds don't come to terms on a pro deal. And Prager's one of those guys. And it's a real gamble, too. I mean, it really is. I know he's a draft-eligible sophomore, but as I had a Major League Baseball scout tell me today, I don't know, even if he duplicates the year he has this year, if he moves into the first round. Maybe he moves up into the second round. Maybe. Still be a junior with some leverage. But, he's kind of gambling a little bit here. But I think a lot of it is because Texas A&M, and I think most people that are honest with themselves, I think you got to pick Texas A&M as the number one team in the country starting the year. I know Baseball America has LSU there. I just don't agree. I like what LSU's done in the portal. But, A&M is returning much of that lineup. And they got Jace Laviolette that's back. I mean, they're going to have a chance to be a really good team next year. And now it looks like they're going to return, a lot of the weekend rotation as well. You lose Chris Cortez, you lose Aschenbeck. The pen's got to be rebuilt a little bit. And so when you begin to kind of work through those things, you begin to realize, hey, this might be a really, really good opportunity for Texas A&M. And so now they get Prager back. I'm sure they're thinking, hey, we're 1A for Omaha. And for those of us who follow college baseball, I think most of us would agree that's probably true. I mean, I think A&M may be the safest bet to get to Omaha of anybody in the country next year. We'll see what happens. It's a new coaching staff, but you got the dudes. And here's the thing about this Ryan Prager thing too. I think you can't discount this. Schlossnagle left, and it angered a lot of A&M fans because number one, think about how we would feel if one of our coaches left to go coach against us at Ole Miss, right? And so I think there may have been some other people that now, because of the fact that Mike Kearney's a coach, it's like, hey, we're going to give this guy every chance to make it. We're going to stick it to Slosh. We're going to do everything we can. And don't think that Ryan Prager is not a byproduct of that. I think if Schlossnagle stays at A&M, Prager signs. But because of the fact that I think that A&M collective got going and says, hey, we got a chance to get to Omaha. Let's offer Prager whatever we need to get him back. And again, I'm speculating here, but I think we can all agree that that's probably what happened. Why would a kid turn down nearly $1 million, and I'm told that he got offered 1.1 and turned it down to go back to A&M. Now, A&M obviously didn't give him $1 million, but I'm sure they gave him a fortune, especially for a college kid. Because even if Ryan Prager, for some reason, doesn't pitch this year, he's still going to be a guy that's going to be drafted in the early rounds of the draft next year. The guy's really, really good. And so it's a bit of a gamble just because I don't think you play your way in, but you probably kind of like the Mershon thing. You kind of get a chance to double dip a little bit. Let's say next year Prager gets drafted pretty much in the same spot and the signing bonus is about $1 million. Well, any money that he got from NIL this year, you couple that with it and say, okay, we turned $948,000 into $1.4 million. Well, that's a good deal. And I'm sure that's one of the things his advisor told him. It's not like they got him to come back for $50,000. And so A&M getting so close last year to winning a national championship, they're like, hey, we're going to return a super team. Let's do everything we can to promote and support our new coach and see if we can get back there next year. Because, with that week after Schlossnagle left and, people are like, oh, we're going to get Tony Vitello. None of that stuff was true. None of that stuff was true. And one of the things I think is interesting, too, if memory serves me correct, I think Texas had to pay, $3 million as a buyout, something close to that, to get Schlossnagle. And so if you're Trev Alberts, you're kicking back thinking, you know what, hey, I've got my head coach's salary paid for the next 3 years, courtesy of the University of Texas. I got a check from them for this buyout, and then I just walk down the hall and promote my hitting coach, and his salary's been paid for. So that's a budget line item that works really well for us at A&M baseball. And I think the fact that they're able to do that, some of this, of course, is just kind of sticking it to Slosh, right? They get their kids back. There was a lot of discussion about that. What would Appel do? What would Laviolette do? All those guys go in the portal, and they're expected to be going to Texas, and all of a sudden A&M threw a wrench in those plans, and then here we are. And so A&M's gearing up to try to go win a national championship. And I told you guys when we played them, I didn't think they were that much better than us, especially without Morris Hodges on Sunday. We let some things get away from us, but A&M was great, and they got better as the year went on. We did too, but they had Laviolette and Montgomery. And really Montgomery especially, really played like a star throughout the year. And so that's something that I think they've gotten so close. And prior to this year, their tradition in Omaha was absolutely anemic. It's like they've wanted to be good in baseball. They have the bubbles, right? And they come to games. It's not like they make it out to be. They come to games, they pack it out, give me 5,000 people, and people on TV act like it's Tiger Stadium at night in October. It's not like that. But I think they've gotten so close, it's like, hey, we don't want to get this close and then all of a sudden go back to middle of the pack. And so I believe every bit of that ambition to drive, to push this team back and to give them the best chance to win an national championship had a ton to do with Ryan Prager. Ton. And you know what? Good for them for getting it done, right? That's boss-type moves right there. That's next-level type stuff. To get a third rounder to back out of the draft and turn down $1 million plus, to go back and pitch another year of college, that's getting it done. It absolutely is. And again, he's a draft-eligible sophomore, so it's not like on the level of Cal Steven and Nate Dohm. Those guys were juniors, right? They didn't have another year to work with. Prager does. But I respect it. I do. I don't like it because of that decision. We're kind of sweating out Dave Mershon. If Prager had signed for 1-1, 1-2 yesterday, I think today we're probably celebrating the return of Dave Mershon. But we're not. It's all connected. It's all connected. Just like the Matrix. It's all connected. Every bit of it. So we just got to keep moving. Got to keep working. And I suspect that we'll know something probably this weekend at some point on what Dave's going to do. My hope is that Dave will get through the visit, go back, sit at home, talk to everybody, talk to Lamonis, talk to his advisor, talk to his family, and not make an emotional decision. But being around David, I just don't think he's that guy that gets caught up in the moment. I think he's intelligent enough and he comes from an educated family that they see the value in everything. It's not just like, hey, let's go sign a bad deal just to go play pro baseball. And that used to happen all the time. I just don't think that's going to happen with Dave Mershon. But they could get dangerously close to his number. And that would not be a great thing for Mississippi State. But the reality of that is hey, we move forward. Nobody's bigger than the brand. We talk about that all the time. But the brand would probably beam a lot brighter next year with David Mershon in the lineup. All right, time for today's top 10 list. As always, brought to you by closewithblair.com. Blair Chandler is my friend, your friend, our collective friend in the mortgage industry. When you have mortgage needs, look no further than Blair Chandler. Let me give you his phone number, 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. Whether you're considering a game day condo, whether you're looking for your first home, maybe you've been on the hamster wheel of renting and you're just no farther along than when you started because you're just paying somebody else and paying their house note. Once you pay your own, build some equity up on a piece of America, have something to leave your children. It's a great thing. It is. It's wonderful to be able to do that. Plant some roots somewhere, right? Maybe you're looking for a life reset. Maybe life's throwing you a curveball. And rather than you stress over every minor and major thing in your life, let's let Blair take care of some of the most major things. And that's getting you into your new home. Yeah, that's simple. Get that pre-qualification letter. You'll be glad you did. Save yourself a little time and effort. Get your real estate agent super motivated. We got some great ones in the Bulldog family that are more than happy to serve you. Blair can recommend somebody in your area if you don't know somebody. Closewithblair.com, the proud sponsor of today's top 10 list. Now, because it is the 25th of July, this may have slipped by you, a lot going on in the world. You're probably listening to the show on Friday, but the 25th, July 25th, is the 25-year anniversary of Woodstock 99. Now, if you've never watched that documentary, I encourage you to do so. It's on Netflix. It's crazy, the things that happened there, how poorly managed that thing was. And I go to their website today to look up some things for our list today, and they want a petition to have another Woodstock. Let me tell you, there's only really been one Woodstock. And that was, I guess back in, 69? 67 was the Summer of Love. Woodstock was in 69. And that was a much different scenario, right? It was about peace, love, and harmony and good happiness stuff. Woodstock 99, a much different deal. It's really more of a cash grab. A lot of people got hurt in that thing. But not that we want to honor the event, but we're going to celebrate the attempt. And I'm going to give you the top 10 live performances that are available on Spotify from the artists who performed. So here's our top 10 Woodstock 99 list. Number 10, a band that I've loved for a long time. They hit us initially with their great album, Mental Jewelry, and came back with the amazing Throwing Copper, and there are no skips on that album. It is an album you can put on from start to finish. I'm talking about live. Their great track, I Alone, because I alone love you, right? That's a little bit narcissistic. It is. But the sentiment behind the song is great. Great. Number 9, one of our favorites. One of the best female performers of a generation, in my estimation. Used to sing backup for Michael Jackson. It's Sheryl Crow. With a great track, if it makes you happy, it can't be that bad. Now, let's not go overboard with that, kids, because some of that, too, we talk about narcissism, and it's like amazing these days. Anybody that hurts your feelings is a, quote, narcissist. The word has kind of lost its power, but if it makes you happy, it's like, hey, there's a lot of things out there in life that people say, hey, we shouldn't do. If it makes you happy, you're not hurting anybody. I'm a proponent for that. I'm a live and let live person. I wouldn't want anybody kind of infringing upon me, but I'm also not one of these kind of people that's going to be a co-conspirator in your delusions. I'm not going to change who I am to make you happy. Not going to do it. You do what you got to do. I'm going to do what I got to do. Again, live and let live. But Sheryl Crow, if it makes you happy, number 9. Number 8, You know, while I'm thinking about it, are these guys even still around anymore? I don't know. I know there were a lot of people that thought they were going to be one of the next big things, and I don't know that it's worked out for them. So let's pull up the trusty Wikipedia page, which isn't always so trusty. As I've written the book about Duty Noble, I found that just about everything on his Wikipedia page incorrect. Shocker, right? Well, they still have an active website. And let's see here. Let's see. Looks like that they made some lineup changes in the early 2000s. And let's see here. Yeah, they're still active. The Wonderful Future Tour was their last run out there. But yeah, pretty good track called Superman's Dead at number 8. Number 7, the band that caused so much trouble at Woodstock 99. And really in many respects too, you know, we talk about the cancel culture. I'm a firm believer in accountability. If you do something stupid, I think you should get credit for it. But Limp Bizkit basically incited a riot, you know, among some miserable people that hadn't had a bath for a few days. They couldn't get water for less than $10 a shot. And it got crazy. And their popularity really began to wane after that. There were lawsuits and things like that. Of course, the band kind of broke up, and a lot of things changed. Wes Borland, of course, kind of did his own thing for a bit. We're talking Limp Bizkit, and a track called Show Me What You Got, number 7. But it's so interesting, you know, when you hear people recount, you know, the chaos and carnage that happened at Woodstock 99, a lot of people point at Limp Bizkit. And I'm a firm believer in this, is that I've never done anything because a musical artist told me to. And that includes vote, too. Like, I have my own brain. I can think for myself. I'm not a robot that I go through my Twitter feed and it's like, oh, well, Vince Neil's voting for so-and-so. Maybe I should, too. No, that's just not how I do it. Maybe you do. I don't know. But, yeah, Limp Bizkit, a band that really, a lot of musical acts that were on the bill kind of pointed to Limp Bizkit for kind of lighting a powder keg of emotion out there. Number 6, God Rest His Soul. It's DMX, and I don't know if DMX had ever been bigger than in the late 90s. Incredible, and a great lyricist. And unfortunately, we lost him to the throes of addiction. Really sad. I remember when Xavier Lovett pitched for Mississippi State, and his walkout was, X gonna give it to you. Love it, man. But stop being greedy. And I love the live performance from the Woodstock soundtrack because the crowd is not just there to enjoy the show; they're part of this show, and you can hear DMX kind of going back and forth with the crowd, and crowd kind of singing along with him. It's a great performance. And, again, a very talented performer gone way too soon. Number 5, kind of breaking our own policy here. And it's kind of ironic that this is the song that Red Hot Chili Peppers covered, considering how this thing ended. But the Chili Peppers covered Jimi Hendrix's Fire. You know, Let Me Stand Next to Your Fire. And if you don't have Jimi Hendrix's greatest hits, I just kind of wonder what you're doing with life. And maybe you don't have to have the physical copy of a CD, but you should download this because there's so many songs that have made American music great. They were written and performed by the great Jimi Hendrix. And Jimmy was so broke when he first got started, he took a right-hand Fender Stratocaster and strung it upside down so he could play left-handed. Phenomenal. But the Chili Peppers do a pretty good rendition here. They do. Number 4, probably one of the highlights of the whole festival was when Korn came out. I've seen Korn multiple times. Sometimes people mistake me for a member of Korn when I'm at a music festival or it's dark and we're late night at a show. I've had multiple people have come up and said, hey, aren't you in Korn or aren't you Jonathan Davis? I am neither. But I did Korn. And they opened the set with Blind, which is, you know, a Korn classic from the very beginning. It's great. I don't know if you know it or not, but when you put it on, what I love about Monkey and Head is because like their tone and kind of that stuff they do in the background, it's kind of weird, you know. It's a little bit off key at times. It's incredible, and I know Head plays a 7-string guitar for that very reason, because you kind of get a different tone with it. But their performance, and if you can find a live video of it, to see all those people just kind of getting off on corn. It's pretty cool stuff. All right, number 3, kind of a controversial figure these days. I guess he kind of always has been. But he's a guy that certainly speaks his mind, and some people don't like that. It's one of the things that I've learned about life is that typically very honest and outspoken people develop enemies very quickly. Yeah, and it doesn't matter how, the more successful they are, the more they talk. Because like people, I don't have any problem with my musical heroes having political opinions. Like, Sebastian Bach from Skid Row. I love Sebastian. I've met Sebastian. I think he's great. But I think when he gets on Twitter and starts, dropping bombs on fans because they don't agree with his political view, I think that's a bit much. But these people are people too. They have a platform. There are things they're passionate about. They're going to share them. That's kind of the reality of it. I don't interview my rock stars before I listen to their music. I don't. I just like the music. And I go back, and probably the greatest Kid Rock song of all time was played at Woodstock 99. It's Ball with a Ball. Absolutely amazing. Ball with a Ball. And the live performance, even better. Even better. Number 2, another band that I love. I don't always agree with their political stances, especially Tom Morello, because Tom can get out there too. The thing that I loved about Rage in the beginning is because they were very anti-establishment. It's like it didn't matter who was in the White House. They took no prisoners. It's like I go back to Sleep Now in the Fire. Vote for Gore the Boar or the son of a drug lord, none of the above. I guess that's guerrilla radio. But I like the fact that they were activists when that meant something. Right? They did Sleep Now in the Fire video on the steps of the New York Stock Exchange. They were very provocative, and I thought they were one of the most important bands of my lifetime. And now you look at them now, it's like there's, I wish they would do something. They've only done about a half dozen shows the last several years, but Bulls on Parade is your song today. Number 2 from the Woodstock 99 performance, Bulls on Parade. Pretty incredible stuff. But again, I don't go out there and send a questionnaire out to artists online to find out what they believe in. I just dig the music. I get inspiration from it, even if their motivation for writing it is different from the way that I interpret it. That's how life is. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? Number 1, and this was a brand new single, and I've seen these guys at Rocklahoma. I hadn't had a chance to meet them, but I've seen them perform up close and personal at Rocklahoma. Thanks, Mark. And we're down in the pit on the first row. And when Sully and the boys hit the opening bars of Keep Away, it just absolutely moves me, man. That's your number 1 song today from Woodstock 99, Godsmack's Keep Away, which I think is the best Godsmack song. You may disagree. That's okay. Godsmack's got such a huge catalog. There's something we can all like. And there's been some talk that they're kind of getting towards the end. And I hate to hear that, but I do think that some of the newer stuff kind of comes off a little bit contrived. Maybe they should hire your boy as a songwriter. I don't know. But Keep Away is one of those tracks. I don't know how you don't drive fast. You put that track on, and there's just a level of aggression with that song, really in the lyrical content. Do like I told you, keep away from me. Never misunderstand. Keep away. I love it, man. I do. That's how I feel a lot of times. I just want people to keep their distance. I don't want any conflict, and there won't be one if you kind of keep your distance. And that's what I try to do too. I try to keep my distance away from situations that may be harmful to me in one way or another. And so that's your 25-year remembrance of Woodstock 99. And again, it turned into a colossal disaster. It was so poorly planned. They weren't prepared. And a lot of people got out there, and all of a sudden it turned into some Lord of the Flies type thing. And if you've never watched Lord of the Flies, you owe it to yourself. I read the book, and then when they released that in the 90s as a movie, I couldn't wait to go see it. Poor Piggy, right? Love Lord of the Flies. And I think Woodstock 99 basically turned into a real-life Lord of the Flies type thing. It really did. It just goes to show you what happens to human beings when they believe that there is no law, right? There is no accountability. So there you go. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out and let us know. Best way to do that is to hit us up on social media. I'm on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. And, of course, Roy Samanti, the keeper of the list, is Dogmatic67, DAWGMATIC67. You can find our great list on Spotify under that same handle. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. Man, I love Campus Bookmart. I have for a long, long time. It's tough on the pocketbook, to be honest with you, man. You roll in there and you want to buy everything. You know, I do. You know, I can't get enough Mississippi State merchandise, and chances are you feel like I do, or you wouldn't be listening to this show. You want to get new Mississippi State merch. You know, I love it when I go to friends' houses or I get invited to an event. I go in and like everywhere I look, it's all Mississippi State stuff. I know that I'm among friends. So let your home be a haven for your friends and decorate it out in decor that you get from Campus Bookmart. You'll be glad you did. Supporting a Starkville business and at the same time demonstrating your fanhood. Yeah. So whether it's your fan cave, your living room, your office, your RV, your pet, whatever you need it for, they have it. Whether you're buying a birthday gift, a wedding gift, a housewarming gift, you can get those needs met at Campus Bookmart. And there's nothing better than supporting a Starkville business. You love Starkville? Yeah, rather than going to Amazon or eBay or some crap like that, you end up getting something where the school colors don't match. Buy somebody that is uniquely maroon. They understand exactly what you're looking for. They ride the wave of Bulldog fandom just like you do at Campus Bookmart. Owned by Bulldog people, run by Bulldog people. It's always a great thing. If you can't make it to town to see their smiling faces, visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That is BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than $75, absolutely incomplete. Okay, we continue our opponent previews, and again, we'll revisit this as we get week to week. But Toledo might prove to be a little more difficult game than I think some people are expecting. And I can already see John Q. Bulldog on Facebook, at halftime of this ball game, complaining. But last year, the Rockets went 11-3. They're picked second in the MAC this year. Got a chance to win the whole thing. Really good team. And so let's kind of look back at last year. Again, 11-3, there's 3 losses. They opened up with a loss at Illinois, 30-28. I suspect that the weather in Illinois in September is probably not so bad. Pretty rough down here. But Labor Day weekend up there may not be as challenging. But, competitive game. They lose 30-28. Now, the next week, they absolutely roll all over Texas Southern in the home opener, 71-3. That'll leave a mark. I don't care who you are and who you play. You put up 70 points, that's getting things done. Week number 3 brought San Jose State. The Spartans go in there, very tightly contested game. Toledo wins at 21-17. Western Michigan, the Broncos, we played those guys too. Toledo gets them 49-31 at Toledo. And again, a nice little stretch here after Illinois. They get 4 consecutive games in their own ballpark, and they conclude the homestand with a 35-33 victory over Northern Illinois, the Huskies. So, hey, you're 4-1 at this point. You go to Amherst, Massachusetts, and you play UMass, and you get a nice road win there. Out of conference, but still it keeps the winning streak going, 41-24. The streak continues as you return to conference play. You're 2-0 in conference. In Ball State, the Red Hawks come in. You get them 13-6. I guess that was in Muncie, Indiana. So that was at Ball State. But, it's a nice win for them. Miami, Ohio, the Red Hawks, they head to Oxford, Ohio, and get them 21-17. So you're 4-0 in the league. I mean, just winning week after week after week after week. You welcome Buffalo on a Tuesday. Don't you love Tuesday action? And you love it, don't you? It's like you get through the weekend, we've got great football Thursday and then high school football on Friday, great college games on Saturday, Sunday and Monday night football, and next thing you know, you turn on Maction. It almost gets you ready for the weekend again. Well, their episode of Maction here on a Tuesday, it's a 31-13 win over Buffalo. Again, a MAC game, too. They get Eastern Michigan the next week at home, take care of them 49-23. You're beginning to wonder if these guys can ever lose. They go to Bowling Green. We played those guys recently, too. Nip and tuck game, they get it 32-31. Then they follow it up and take on the Chippewas. Man, we had a great time with them when they came in here and played us in baseball. 32-17 winners. So you look up there and you're like, man, it's pretty impressive here. Yeah, Toledo, 11-1 to close out the regular season. You lose the first one, and you win 11 in a row? Come on now. They get a rematch with Miami of Ohio in the Mid-American Conference Championship game, and this time at Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan, Miami, the alma mater of my esteemed colleague Mike Nemeth, avenges their victory and claims a conference championship 23-14. They head to the bowl game. They're in the Barstool Sports Arizona Bowl. I don't know if Brandon Walker made the trip or not. But they take on the Wyoming Cowboys out there in Tucson, Arizona Stadium. We've been there too. And Wyoming gets them 16-15. So again, 11-game winning streak, and you don't win either of the postseason games. But they may feel somewhat unfulfilled, but what a great year last year for the Toledo Rockets. Pretty impressive. Now, before they get to us this year, let's take a quick look at what we can expect. Hey, they'll play Duquesne's on Thursday night, August 29th. You'll have a chance to do some advanced scouting of your own Thursday night game at the Glass Bowl. That's what they're calling the home venue now, the Glass Bowl. And then they get UMass on September 7th. So I would suspect they'll be 2-0 coming to Starkville. And, of course, we'll be coming back from Arizona State. They'll have back-to-back home games, and their first road game of the year will be at Davis-Wade Stadium. Now, looking back at last year, looking at who stirred the drink for them, who was the straw that made it all happen for them, and you got to feel like, hey, it's pretty much a team effort. But offensively, guys, pretty good. Averaging 32 points a game, only allowed 20 and some change. Put up 452 points last year. And, of course, 71 came in one game, but still you heard those scores. Until you got to the end of the year, they were pretty prolific offensively. Pretty good balance, too. 117 rushing first downs, 144 through the air, 25 courtesy of a penalty. But, man, they ran for 2,778 yards last year and then threw for just over 3,000, nearly 3,100. So very balanced offensive approach there. Interesting. Scored 59 touchdowns, allowed just 33. And you remember that Cincinnati game, that Illinois game. And so, yeah, they didn't fare well in that one, but the rest of them, again, very, very good games. Pretty good in the special teams, allowing just 16 yards a return. They averaged nearly 22 yards themselves. Punting, not bad. Not bad, but not great. What is happening to punting, right? I know, listen, you don't expect to get Ray Guy. But, with all these specialized kicking camps, why would you have a team that consistently averages, between 35 and 40 yards? And it seems like there's a bunch of that. They were 37-15. Their opponents were right at 40. But, not great. Not bad, but not great. Just kind of average. They committed a lot of penalties, too. 93 penalties on the year. So about 62 yards a game. Their opponents, 83. Time of possession favored the opponents by about 5 minutes. Pretty good on third down, 44% on fourth down. They went for it 22 times last year and converted about 60% of the time. And I guess if you're Toledo, why not, right? They fumbled the football 21 times and lost 11 of them. They forced 18 and recovered 7. They also allowed 39 sacks and then only forced 11. So not a great pass rushing team, but a team that at times struggled to protect the quarterback, and you would expect that from 11-1 team. Pretty good team statistics there. Let's look at individual numbers here. Penny Boone, big year for them, huge year for them, 1,400 yards on the ground. And they kind of did it by committee, too. Jacquez Stewart with 604 yards, I guess a net of 574. DeQuan Finn, 563. So kind of a three-pronged attack there. Yeah, you need to have a bell cow. And they certainly had one in Penny Boone. And you got to think here that when you put up those kind of numbers in a balanced offense like that, that's rather significant, right? I think we would all agree with that. But Penny Boone enters the NCAA transfer portal and transfers to Central Florida. So that's a really good get for Gus Malzahn and his group down there. And so it's kind of like we talked about Eastern Kentucky and even some Arizona State players, some of their top players no longer there. So the leading rusher is gone. You begin to look at the passing numbers here. DeQuan Finn, also their third leading rusher, was also their top passer. 201 completions, 317 attempts. He threw 9 interceptions against 22 touchdowns. Averaged about 204 yards through the air. A native of Detroit, Michigan, an alumnus of Martin Luther King High School, 6'2", 205-pounder. Pretty impressive year for him. And again, this is a guy that has proven that he can win for them. And I think that's the thing you begin to look at too. Looking back to Penny Boone, he was the guy that was at Louisville originally. So it's not like he just went and developed at a MAC school. He was a Power 5 guy initially, transfers down and then back up again. So it'll be interesting. I think we all kind of see it for what it is. DeQuan Finn is now, though, a Baylor Bear. That'll leave a mark, right? The guy that kind of championed your offense is now headed to the Power 5 level, and can you blame him? Tucker Gleason was the number 2 quarterback, a sophomore out of Plant High School in Tampa, Florida, 6'3", 235-pounder, 28 of 55, 4 touchdowns, and the one pick there. Looking at receiving here, Jawan Newton kind of led the show here, but it wasn't a situation where Jawan was a one-man show. Junior Vanderas III had nearly identical statistics, 5 less catches, about 35 less yards, but 5 less touchdowns. So Newton a better job getting into the end zone. But, they definitely spread the ball around a little bit. I think that's one of the things you think about successful offenses, right, is you look at guys that have the opportunity to make big things happen for you. Pretty impressive stuff. It is. And so, again, it's a very balanced offense, but also clearly an offense that they spread the football around. So it's not like, hey, we've got to shut this guy down. And it looks like, that they got some guys coming back, too, that, granted, you lose your quarterback and your top running back, it's hard to get better. But they had about 9 transfers last year. What's interesting, too, they had some guys coming in. They got some Power 5 guys that have come in here, too. This is not one of them, but they have an edge from Florida A&M, Anthony Dunn Jr. This could be a part of it. Lance Dixon, linebacker from West Virginia, joins the roster. Terrell Crosby, wide receiver from Iowa State. He'll go in. Jacob James from Ohio State, offensive lineman. Alan Jones Jr. from Prairie View A&M. Zeke Blake from Youngstown State. And then a name that you'll know. A guy in many respects that ruined our Christmas. You remember this a few years ago? Out of Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. Jadarius Perkins ends up committing to Missouri, transfers to Florida. Guess what now? He's at Toledo. So you'll finally get a chance to see him play a game at Davis Wade Stadium. How about that? That's the thing about this transfer portal. You just never know who's coming to dinner. Yeah, so the portal giveth, and the portal taketh. So awfully interesting. But again, they're picked second in the MAC and have been in a MAC championship game the past 2 years. They won it back in 2022. And again, lose last year to Miami, Ohio. But, this is not just going to be a walk in the park. I expect to win the game. But, again, when you take a team that's used to winning and you get a guys that maybe think, hey, I was good enough to play in the SEC and never got a chance. This is a chance for me to put some good things on film and show pro scouts that maybe I was overlooked. Of course, Jason Candle, he's the guy that a lot of our fans kind of mentioned early on when we got ready to make a coaching change last year. It said, hey, we had to look at Jason Candle. There was a lot of people that had him connected with the Michigan State job too, and he didn't get it. You got to wonder here, if he's been there now 7 years, and there's been a lot of openings in those 7 years, even within the region, is he stuck there? Is he there by choice? Those are the things you kind of begin to ask yourself, because offensively, they've done some very creative things. But, a guy that's gotten some things done. Jason, 65-35 overall in his tenure there. Played at Geneva, then transferred to Mount Union as a wide receiver. Stayed on once his playing career was over as a wide receiver coach, and then the offensive coach at Mount Union, and then has basically been at Toledo ever since. He leaves Mount Union to be wide receiver coach and tight ends coach, or slot receivers coach. In 2009, took over as wide receiver from 2010 to 2011, became the offensive coordinator and receivers coach from 12 to 13. And then 14 to 15, he was the associate head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the quarterback's coach. And then in 16, he was promoted to be the head coach there. And really took over at the end of the 2015 season and coached them in the Boca Raton Bowl to a victory, his first win as a head coach. And last year's not just an anomaly. Back in 2017, they were also an 11-win team. And then things kind of were middle of the road for a while, 7-6, 6-6, 4-2 in the abbreviated 2020 season, 7-6 in 21, 9-5 in 22, and of course 11-3 last year. But you start looking through here, he's never had a losing season as a head coach. So interesting, right? Interesting, shall we say. But 43-19 in their league. Has only had one losing record in the MAC, and that was back in 19. Been to a bowl game all but 2 seasons, and currently on a 3 bowl game streak. Hadn't done so well, and we talked about them winning the Boca Raton Bowl in 15. He won it again in 2022, but has lost his other 5 bowl trips. Always rather interesting when you begin to kind of look for all this stuff too, And it's interesting, he followed, when he took the job as the offensive coordinator at Union, he followed Matt Campbell. A name that everybody knows, used to be a really, 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 really hot name, right? And, when Campbell went to Iowa State, they just promoted Jason Candle. So, again, should be a well-coached game and a well-coached team when they come here. Again, it's a game that I expect us to win. But, I don't know that we can just sit back and just start taking these non-conference games for granted because, as I mentioned on Wednesday's show, we're going to have to sweep all 4 of these things. And to have a chance to get at a bowl game, I still think there's probably an upset in there somewhere. But if you're really drill this thing down, you got to win the 4 non-conference games and probably beat Florida and Arkansas. Those are toss-up games that will take place at our place and 2 coaches that are on the hot seat. So who knows how dialed in they'll be when they get here. I know Billy and those guys, again, may have some difficulty before they even reach Starkville. May come in here kind of desperate, so you never know. A dangerous team is often a desperate team. So we'll see how those things progress. But, again, we'll revisit Toledo on game week 3. But, hey, we're going to have to bring our hard hats to win that game. I'm sure Toledo's thinking, hey, We were a winning team last year. Yes, we lost some pieces, but we believe in our system. We get a chance to go on the road and play an SEC team that had a losing record last year. First-year head coach. It's a great opportunity for us to kind of have that marquee win. Even if it's not a great SEC team, even if State's just a 500 team this year, hey, this is a chance for us to go out there and kind of pad our resume a little bit, help ourselves on the recruiting trail, and it's like, hey, we can compete with all this. And if you're Jason Candle, you're thinking, hey, I can go beat an SEC team on the road. Maybe that elevates my stock as a head coaching candidate, somewhere else. All of that is very, very important. And it's something to consider as we kind of get in through the dog days of summer here now. It's now July 25th, and again, we're going to be playing football now, nearly 4 weeks? Is that right? We're close, right? Nearly? I'm so ready to play, right? I'm so ready to get into camp, and we'll be in camp here in about a week, and looking forward to kind of shifting into football mode. It feels like baseball season has never ended. That's how I feel, because we've been chasing the portal news, and then, of course, now we're in the draft stuff, and, Dave Mershon not been drafted. By and large, we've moved on. But Dave Mershon is so important to the Mississippi State baseball team. We're having to kind of spend a lot of time on this. And to be honest with you, when there's things like this going on, I spend so much time on the phone, just trying to get you guys a little morsel of information we can post over Gene's page, kind of keep you apprised of what's going on. And it really cuts into the content, right? Because, you don't have as much time. You spend time on the phones, you send out texts, you send out, emails, and it takes a while for people to get back with you. And sometimes they don't know anything, and it all comes back to you at once. But that's a big part of it. When you're out chasing stories, it's difficult to write stories. And so it cuts into my day. I did go float yesterday, though, thank goodness. Slept like a baby last night. That's one thing byproduct of floating that I'll tell you that maybe I didn't realize when I first started floating is the quality of my sleep has improved so much. When I sleep, like today, even though I woke up at like 9, I used to get up around 8. I woke up around 9. I didn't get out of bed almost 10. I just so incredibly comfortable and so well rested. I just said, let me just get the phone out. I just kind of get on the message boards and social media from here. Just kind of roll this thing out. And so I always encourage you, come float, whether you got chronic pain or anxiety or stress in your life, and chances are you do, we may be able to help you. I'm going to be running the spa here this weekend too, so if you're in town, stop by and say hello. Busy day tomorrow. I know on Friday we've got a pretty busy schedule. And it's my first solo voyage in that respect. And so eager to get out there and get some things done. But yeah, it's been a good week for us. And again, now that summer's beginning to end, and it seems like high school has already started for many people. I know back home, I think they start on Monday. I can't begin to imagine. I remember when I was in high school, I remember like it was yesterday. Like we always used to start the Monday or the Tuesday after Labor Day. Or September 1st. It was always around. We never went back to school before September. And I remember we had to go August the 26th. My freshman year at Columbia High School began August 26th. And we felt like they had robbed us of our youth. They had stolen those 5 days from us. It's like, why did we do this? It's too hot to go to school, But we had to get back into it. And nowadays, it's granted, it's taken 30 years, but now it's a month prior, and there's some schools that are going year-round. I'm so glad that my kids are no longer in grade school. I only got one still in school, and he, of course, is a sophomore at Mississippi State, and I'll soon have a young lady pursuing a law degree. But for those parents, and I know that struggle, right? When you're the one that has to drive them to school every day, it is like it's such a relief to get to work. Because it takes all your effort to kind of get everybody up and everybody motivated and get everybody dressed and make sure everybody's teeth brushed and they get some breakfast in them. Everybody's got their book bag. It's like you wake up at such a frenetic pace. And then once you get everybody dropped off, it's like, hey, I'm going to swing through Strange Brew and get some coffee, man. Now that I can have some me time, I'm going to grab this, and you get to work, and it's like, oh, okay. Now I can just focus on me. And I remember those years when I had to bring the kids, and it's like I hated the alarm clock. Absolutely hated the alarm clock. I don't hate it as much because I don't have to set it as often these days. But there's so many of you out there, it's like all of a sudden, hey, summertime, we haven't had to worry about this. I've kind of had to worry about myself, you know. And now all of a sudden we're back into back to school mode. And now instead of it being a 9-month thing, it's almost a 10.5 or 11-month thing. You know, you go to school longer, it starts earlier. You're like, well, we get the holiday breaks, and you know, maybe you do. But I am so glad that I have aged out of that. I don't have to worry about that. I remember when Audrey got her driver's license, I could not wait to get her a car. So she could, and they were happy to do it, right? You know, then I could sleep late and I could work late and that's kind of the things. But for those of you that are having to adjust your schedule again to accommodate getting up, bringing everybody to school, and even though you put on a happy face and you say, oh, I'm happy to do it, I know deep down you're looking forward to a day that you don't. And people say, well, one day you're going to miss this. I can promise you I don't miss any of that. I do miss the years of my kids participating in school athletics and school events and that kind of, I do miss that. I do not miss having to get up early and bring everybody to school. I don't have any fond memories of that. I mean, maybe that's just me. Maybe you're a little more sentimental than me. I doubt it, but that's not one thing that I miss. One of the things I do miss is when I was coaching middle school basketball in Baton Rouge, and you know, I'd have Ani was playing elementary school basketball, so I'd have to like hustle across Baton Rouge. And at the time, I recognized it. I said, it won't always be this way, but I'm so glad I get a chance to coach and make a difference in young people's lives and then go be a fan and watch my kid play. And sometimes I'd end up having to coach that game too. But I miss that, and I miss my girls, you know, competing in dance competitions and things like that. And Dana, I can tell you, misses that too. I mean, a lot of it too, like she talked about recently, you know, just fixing the girls' hair, you know, getting them their makeup done to go on stage, just that mother-daughter thing. I didn't have to do any of that stuff, but I do miss those trips, and I do miss those memories, but I don't miss getting up, driving everybody to school. So, again, for those of you with a schedule change, my heart goes out to you. Hey, let's get ready for our last segment of the show, brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. If you're bringing a large group of people to Starkville, look no further than the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, because you can have everybody under one roof. Instead of going out there and getting 5 hotel rooms and everybody scattered all across the county, you know, Bill's in the Airbnb and then Joe and Mary are at this place and that place. You know, instead of you having to do that and coordinate schedules, wouldn't it be great for everybody to just be together? And happiness is being together, making memories together. And so, you know what? We don't get a chance to do this very often, so let's all get together. 5 bedrooms, 2 bath, that great back porch area, full-service kitchen, wet bar, anything that you need for a great weekend with friends or family. Got that fire pit area out there. Believe it or not, it's sometime soon. Things are going to begin to cool off at night, and conversations around a fire are just more meaningful. So you can head to town. You can stock up that full-service kitchen. Everybody can take turns cooking. You can order out. You can DoorDash, whatever you want to do, because you're just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus, kind of tucked away neat in the old neighborhood out there. Only got one neighbor. We don't want you getting crazy, but it is very quiet out there. Plenty of room to park. It's the old renovated clubhouse, the old country club. So glad they did something with that. It's an amazing piece of property, and it can be yours for a weekend. Now, when you Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, their Facebook page is going to come up. You're going to have the opportunity to look at all the pictures of all the amenities that are available to you, and you're going to get some booking options as well. VRBO, Airbnb, certainly your right to use them. I won't judge, but if you're looking to save some money, I can help you with that. You can book through the Evolve website, and you can save 10%. Promo code BSR10, BSR10 gets you 10% off your stay. So whether it's a ball game weekend, a girls' weekend, a couples' weekend, a family weekend, yeah, cool it is. You know, the older I get and the more that my kids scatter, I so appreciate those nights when everybody's going to bed under the same roof. Everybody's right there, right? So if we want to sit up late and play games, and you know, mom can get up in the morning and make cinnamon rolls for everybody, and it's just nice having that homey feeling, even if it's not home. And so make this your home away from home. Create an experience and a memory for all your friends and family by booking the Stark Vegas Clubhouse for your next trip to the Golden Triangle. All right, so let's spend a little time here talking about football recruiting. As you guys know, on Thursday we had the big cookout deal. I think they're calling it Bulldog Bash. You know, maybe that's trademark infringement, but But, yeah, so we didn't have a lot of guys on commitment watch. And it's really a chance for everybody to kind of get together and spend some time together before everybody shifts into football mode. Dead period just ended. We're getting ready to get into fall camp. A lot of the kids are already, again, in school, right? And so it's a chance for everybody to get together, and you bring the commitments in and some of your priority targets, and you just kind of celebrate togetherness. And it's the guest list has kind of been quiet, and listen, we try to respect that too, right, over genespage.com. I mean, there was a time in my career that I would just call 200 kids or text 200 kids and just kind of put them all on a list together. But, I think this is one of those situations too where, we've had some events in the past that, we just kind of kept it under wraps because you don't want it to get too big, right? It's kind of like big dog camp, right? We have a bunch of prospect camps already, so you got plenty of chances to come and get reps and get seen. And the big dog camp is, they want to keep that kind of a controlled group. I get the vibe that was the case with this thing too. And everybody's doing something like this. Ole Miss is doing their thing this weekend. Auburn's having their Big Cat weekend. It's everybody's kind of doing the same thing. And some of these players, like Tyler Lockhart, there's talk was at Mississippi State on Thursday, and then maybe going to Auburn for Big Cat weekend. And I still believe this is all going to work out. It's fine for Mississippi State. I've never doubted any of that. I know Auburn's not going to give up on him. It's so funny, though. After he decommitted, some people are like, well, he really isn't that good. He isn't that good. Like, oh, well, he wants to play with his brother. We're not going to take his brother out of the portal, But yet they invite him to the Big Cat weekend. Come on. The kid can really play. Top defensive player in the state of Mississippi this year. I don't think it's close. I've actually had a chance to see this kid in person. And love the fact that he understands that Rule 1 of defensive football is you got to go get the football. I love people that understand that. And you say, but Steve, no. There are some people that don't appreciate that. They just don't have the natural ability to identify a play, diagnose a play, and understand where they need to be. Tyler Lockhart is one of those guys, kind of intuitively knows that. And again, I expect him to be a Bulldog, whether that's this weekend, next weekend, in September. It doesn't make any difference to me when he announces his commitment, but come December, I fully expect him to be a Bulldog. A lot of stuff going on with Caleb Cunningham these days. He was supposed to be at Big Cat weekend, that he wasn't going to go. I know Ole Miss is trying to get him up there this weekend. That's just going to be one of those things we're just going to have to work through. Mississippi State, obviously, very, very involved with him. And if anything, I think State has picked up the pace even more, if that's possible. And you may recall the very first visit that Jeff Lebby made as the head coach at Mississippi State was Choctaw County High School. He and Chad Bumpus went by there on purpose. And then, of course, as the dead period ended or began, the entire staff goes to watch Caleb play basketball. That's all by design. They're trying to show him what he means. They open the dead period up, or they open the contact period up by going to see him, and they close the contact period out by taking everybody up there to go see him. And it made an impression. And then he ended up committing to Alabama. And again, I don't think Alabama is going to be quite what some people are suggesting. There's a lot of hype about Alabama, and I just don't know that I buy it. I really don't. I just don't know that I buy it. And listen, I think Jalen Milroe is an incredible athlete. I don't think he's a great quarterback, and I don't know that he fits what they want to do. He's not a Michael Penix type passer. He's a much better athlete than Penix is. But let's not forget Michael Penix banged up a lot of his career too, and he ended up being a Heisman finalist, So Kalen DeBoer is going to know how to coach quarterbacks and kind of get what he wants out of him. But I don't think this offense is going to be as explosive as some people are forecasting it to be. And again, you don't want to be the guy following a legend anyway. But Mississippi State just has to continue working. It's still 4.5 months until National Signing Day. And so nobody's given up on Caleb Cunningham. You can't, change gears a little bit now as we get into the season, because now you're thinking about game day visits, and we'll have Caleb on an official visit. I think, matter of fact, he's coming the weekend of the Toledo game. I think that's right. But he will be here in September, expected to take official visits to Ole Miss and Mississippi State, and this is going to be a battle all the way to the very end, for sure. Tyler Miller is a guy we've talked about. The latest information I have on him is not really that promising. Of course, he's down there at Laurel, and you would think, hey, if there's an offensive lineman down at Laurel, we should benefit from that, considering Charles Cross's level of success here at Mississippi State. Malik Ellis, of course, is here and having a good experience. But There's some people in his circle that think, hey, you know what, LSU is the move. They're going to run the football a lot. We think this maybe prepares you better for the National Football League. And I don't know if that's true or not. I know there were a lot of people that were kind of anti-Mike Leach and air raid saying, hey, you don't learn to run block the way you should. And then Charles Cross ends up being a first-round draft pick. But I just think Tyler Miller, I think that is an uphill battle. And, of course, State and Ole Miss are both really on him. I think it's going to be very difficult to flip him from LSU. Now, I'm not saying that State hadn't done a good job with the kid. I think you got to recruit everybody around him to make them think, hey, this is the best move for him. But that's something we'll watch, for sure. Cortez Thomas, of course, surprised us and committed to Ole Miss. That one's not over. I do understand he's supposed to be at their weekend event. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Kamari Rogers thing. When Kamari came out, he took some clandestine visits to Mississippi State while he was committed to Miami. He ultimately stuck with Miami, but you remember late in the process, there was a lot of ebb and flow with that. Weren't sure how things were going to go. Now he's here, and you would think he and Corey Ellington could kind of be a drawing card. I think Cortez Thomas is an outstanding player. And, I think it's one of those situations, too. We just kind of got to let it play out. I don't think it's over by any stretch of the imagination. But, hey, State had that huge June, and Ole Miss needed a counter. They did to tip the cap to them. Mason Dunn, of course, down at Tupelo. Rion Young, our recruiting analyst, recently took in a practice over at Tupelo High School and had a chance to talk to pretty much anybody who was anybody over there, including Mason Dunn. And Mason's not a guy that likes to do a lot of media. Great young man, but he's just not big on the phone, Got an interview with him. He's a guy that plans to take visits. He's already officially visited Mississippi State, talking about taking a visit out to Minnesota. LSU is on him a little bit too. Mason Dunn, this is a guy, there's not a lot of hype with him, and there should be. And I know what happens a lot of times when guys commit early, they kind of lose their hype. And Mason Dunn was a guy that I don't think a lot of fans around Mississippi kind of understood the quality of him as a player. And really until now. And I think now that he's committed, it's like, well, he didn't flip to State back in June, so maybe we should move on. I don't get the sense in any way whatsoever that State is moving on from him. I think that's one, again, you're going to have to watch until the very end. And I think, my attitude has always been, and I used to tell Dan Mullen this, Ole Miss is always going to come out to one of your players late. Play defense on that, but make them play defense too. Don't just sit back and react. Go recruit some of their guys, even if you don't plan to sign them, And you'd say, well, Steve, I don't want to waste time doing that. Well, the more time they have to focus on theirs, less time they got to focus on yours. That's always been my attitude is, you got to be aggressive. I don't think you just got to sit back and just kind of wait for them because, we've seen it. It's always one of their annual goals in recruiting to flip a Mississippi State commitment on signing day. It was in their recruiting book under Freeze. And so it's important to understand, we've got to, I think, give as good as we get. Go out there, make the Chase Mason, and if he ends up sticking with Ole Miss, okay, cool. But you've made him work. And if there's NIL involved in all this, you probably made him overspend. That's an aspect of this too. You got to exert pressure when you can, and force people to do things. If all they got to do is sit back and say, well, nobody's getting them, we'll just coast into signing day. I don't think you can afford to let that happen. But I really like Mason Dunn's game. I really do. And we start ranking, corners in this state. He's probably number one for me, But a lot of your commitments back in town, and that's big too. Again, it's like a family reunion. And you want those guys to kind of be around the other guys that you're recruiting. They begin to build some relationships and trade numbers and follow each other and kind of keep up with each other on social media. That's a big part of this thing too. And Camario is such a drawing card for us because he carries such a presence. And I'm eager to go see him play. I'll probably wait a couple of weeks, kind of let them get a couple of games on their belt. But I'm eager to go see him play this fall. And Camario, I hope you'll do the same thing. If you live in this area, or maybe you're traveling up for a Mississippi State game, you're coming up on Friday, and you're thinking, hey, what are we going to do Friday night? Maybe stop there in Macon, right there on 45, and go watch Camario Taylor play a game. And I'm not saying have any interaction with him, but just go watch and you'll see for yourself. The kid exudes confidence, and I think that team at Knoxville County's got a chance to do some special things this year because they have the best quarterback in their classification. I really don't think there's much of a question about that. Now, Deuce Knight is ranked ahead of him, and I love Deuce's game too. I had a chance to cover him at Mississippi State's camp a couple years ago, and committed to Notre Dame. You know, that didn't happen very often, right? You have a Mississippi kid committed to Notre Dame. It just doesn't happen with great regularity. But yeah, big-time player. And I think he and Camario are probably the obvious picks to make the Miss-Al game. You know, and, we'll learn about that stuff here. Dandy Dozen and Miss-Al game, that stuff will all be out sooner rather than later. And I'm eager to see. I'm eager to see how those things kind of come together. You know, that's a thing that you always think about, because it means so much to the kids. It does. I mean, to be in the Mississippi-Alabama All-Star game, and it's crazy to think, hey, it's not too far down the road to think, hey, we're going to be having signing day, and then we'll have the Mississippi-Alabama All-Star game because of the early date of signing day. So there won't be the big recruiting thing. That was always a big thing is, you wanted to have the most commitments in the Miss-Al game because they would be there to kind of help your recruiting efforts among the uncommitted and the undeclared. And so now that December 3rd is the signing date, you're going to play the game afterwards. So those guys are going to play that game as signees. And so you also kind of negates, in many respects, a lot of those guys' ability to kind of get an evaluation in before December. But for those guys that maybe don't have what they want in December and they're going to bank on themselves to get into February, I think the Mississippi-Alabama All-Star game is really good for them as practices because of the fact they're going to have a chance to go out there and showcase their skills and say, hey, there's still value in the Mississippi and Alabama high school ranks that are unsigned. And so there's a silver lining to all of it. But I would much prefer to have the opportunity to have, our guys recruiting other guys prior to signing day in an environment like that. They go down there to Camp Shelby and they don't have coaches around, and they can go down there and just kind of be kids among themselves, and they build relationships or further their relationships. That's an important aspect of things. And so we won't have that. Things are changing, kids, not always for the better. We come back on Monday. I'm going to talk a little bit about these scholarship changes. Some of them blow my mind, to be honest with you. And I don't think it's all positive. I know some people will say that it is. I think there are some competitive balance issues with this that we have to be very concerned about here at Mississippi State. And again, I'm going to take the weekend and kind of think about it. I'm going to investigate a little bit more, and we'll talk about it more on Monday's show. But I think I'm happy about some things in baseball and not happy about others. I'm happy we have more scholarships to work with. I don't like the cap on the roster. I don't like that. I don't. And I don't know what's wrong with the 40-man roster. Maybe you have half dozen walk-ons. That's how I see it. But again, we'll get into that more on Monday. And if you haven't done so, go to dutynoblebook.com and pre-order the Dude. All copies ordered through the website will be signed. And we'll have a release date here for you, probably in a week or so. And I'm excited about it. I've told you guys before, if you're a Mississippi State fan, you're going to probably learn more about the history of Mississippi State athletics than ever, when you read this book. And I don't just say that because I'm biased. It's just because of the fact that many of these stories have not been told in generations, and many of these in over 100 years, and some of these stories have never been told. How about that? Got some family stuff that we were able to share with you, too. Some things handed down to the next generation in the Noble family. So excited about it, and should be a great time. I look forward to seeing you guys out there at all the book signings this fall. And I can't begin to tell you what this book means to me. It's the greatest gift I think I could ever give the Mississippi State family. I truly believe that. And it's been my honor to write this. So let's get out of here. Again, it's Thursday night here. You're listening on Friday, unless it's late Thursday night where you are. But we're going to go ahead and upload the show tonight, give you guys a head start on it. And then Monday we'll get back on schedule. And next thing you know, it's exciting to think about. We're going to be in camp, So we'll wrap up the Mershon news here in the next several days. Got until August 1st. May have a portal thing here and there, but we got to move quick. I still think we need another bat. That's just me. But then we're going to be full football, right? And then we'll do some fall baseball occasionally. But, I'm so eager to get into football. Again, as much as I love baseball, it feels like there's just been one headline after another to kind of keep up with. And so eager to get into football. So excited about Jeff Lebby's first season at Mississippi State. you know my expectations, and I want to see us go out there and be competitive in every game, and see an exciting brand of offense. And I feel confident we're going to get that. Eager to see what Shapen looks like, you know, full time in this scheme that I think really fits his skill set. I'm looking forward to seeing these guys in practice, and we'll update you at genespage.com and certainly here on the Boneyard. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.